Good morning, I'm Frank Powers, and this is Lifestyle Tucson, the program where I speak to our neighbors, the people behind the scenes of our amazing organizations, small businesses, and nonprofits. Our friends are informing you how they serve our community, and they are here to give you updates on future projects. Let's make some new friends today. So things are going to be a little heavy today because I like to keep Lifestyle Tucson light, but we got to talk about some important stuff. And I was talking to my guests a moment ago off air about a story, which is why their organization means a lot to me. When I first moved to Tucson, one of the things I was doing was getting my life back on track, going to Pima Community College. I saw a poster there on a newsstand that explained how the deaths of immigrants crossing the border do not count in the U.S. death toll, and that these people are not categorized as like human beings. And I couldn't believe that that fact was real. And I was like, what are we doing to make sure that humanity is looking at other humans as humans? Because that was just the worst thing that I learned going to that college was just this amazing fact. And it's good that I got this gig here on Lifestyle Tucson because I get to meet the people that are helping take care of people in the world that need help. And as of November 2021, 3,790 immigrants have died trying to cross the vast Arizona Sonoran Desert. Many more haven't been found. Luckily, there's great organizations. Motivated by faith and the universal need for kindness, Humane Borders maintains a system of water stations in the Sonoran Desert on routes used by migrants making the perilous journey here on foot. Their primary mission is to save desperate people from a horrible death by dehydration and exposure, and to create a just and humane environment in the borderlands. They locate water stations on government and privately owned land with permission from landowners. Founded in the summer of the year of 2000, Humane Borders Incorporated is a nonprofit corporation run almost exclusively by volunteers. And today I'm fortunate to speak with Bob Feinman, Vice Chair of Humane Borders. Bob, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for the opportunity.
I appreciate it. And David Sarando, Treasurer of Humane Borders. How are you doing, David?
Doing very well. Thanks for having us.
Heck yeah. So you can see heavy stuff. I don't know if I stammered through that enough, but that's...
You did okay for a disc jockey.
Hey, I'll do all right. Thank you. I appreciate it. But yeah, I couldn't believe that fact that that's what we're talking about here is really human life. And the fact that human life, it doesn't matter where you go, where you're from, you're a human being, and we got to treat some of our fellow man like human beings.
Every country has the right and the responsibility to keep track of foreigners coming and going.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. Well, we have the same right all other countries do. The issue here is that some of them that come and go without the documents are indeed dying, whether it's heat in the summer or freezing nights in the winter. We are a group that is strictly humanitarian. We understand that coming to the United States without the proper documents is a violation of a number of statutes. But we firmly believe that this should not be punishable by death.
Well said.
That's the bottom line. We have about 45 stations between Tucson and Sonoita and further east, more or less.
West of Sonoita and Ajo to the Santa Cruz
right.
Valley. Yeah.
We're pretty well spread out. We look to see if we can find the routes where water is needed. We actually have teams of volunteers that sometimes will actually go out and see if there's a tank needed in the XYZ spot versus, let's say, the ABC spot. Mm-hmm. We can pretty much take a look at the desert, and that'll tell us where tanks are needed. There will be water bottles, there will be empty clothing, there will be things that were left by the migrants. We also receive funding from Pima County. And last time I looked, David, I think we're still the only nonprofit that does this sort of thing that gets government support, right?
Yeah, we're the only ones that put water out in the desert and look for places where people can be helped that actually get the permission of government agencies and private landowners.
Why do we do it our way? I don't know. I mean, we're one of maybe 5 or 6 different border groups, and the principal duty of all of us is to save lives, but we all have our little different ways of doing it. Some groups are political. Our group is not political. It's humanitarian. I think at the end of the day, the more groups out there that do it, the safer the desert can be when it comes to these migrants.
Yeah, that's important. Let's talk about the actual water stations. They're 55-gallon blue industrial strength plastic barrels fitted with spigots. I have a question about it when it comes to this stuff, because I just think about this. You're helping people and you want to do this, but there's got to be a trust issue from some of these folks you're trying to help in a way. How do they know that this isn't just in a way like a mousetrap?
We work in shelters on the Mexican side of border towns, migrant shelters, and we work with a group called Grupo Beta. Grupo Beta is an arm of the Mexican Immigration Service, but they're the humanitarian arm, and they only exist on the borders with North America and Central America, and they allow us to come down and talk to migrants and leave literature there so the migrants know how dangerous it is. They know that a blue 20-foot flag is going to signify water. They know who to be careful of when it comes to the people called coyotes, the people that they pay to get them across the border. They pretty much know the drill. We do all we can to put the information out there on the border. And at the same time, we hear horror stories. I mean, it reminds me of the old TV show Naked City. I don't know if you're old enough to remember that. The guy would end and say, there's 8 million stories in the Naked City. This is just one. It was a police show about New York City. I don't know if there's 8 million, but there certainly are stories out there that are horror stories that we hear when we go out to try and save lives. It's very important, but it's also very dangerous.
It is. And I was on the website, and that's how dangerous it is. So let's talk about the website because, again, it's going to get a little heavy. One of the tabs on the website are death maps. There's a tab on there talking about that. Also, there's a tab for missing persons reports. We're trying to help some people. So tell me about some of the information available when it comes to the website and what it is that we're looking at.
Yeah, one of the things, the death maps is something that we've been doing since the beginning with the Pima County Coroner's Office. And it's open to the public to look at so that people can actually see what is going on out there. It's also, even, as morbid as it is, seeing how many people are dying out there every year, and you can break it down any way you want on that map. You get to learn where people are dying in our desert. And it does help some of the other humanitarian organizations as well as ourselves when we go looking to see where can we help people. So I think it's a very important thing. And as you said earlier in your story, for many, many years, it didn't matter. It's not a count that's included in the U.S. death toll. It's not a count that anybody really knew about or cared about. And the fact that our coroner, does the amazing job of pinpointing these deaths and marking where they happened and what happened to that person if we can, and us being able to share that with the public and with organizations is a very important part of what we do. And the part about finding people that are missing, and Bob deals with this a lot.
I get the emails and the phone calls from Latin America about the missing people and missing relatives, yes. And they're very sad, but they're very real.
And the biggest thing is that most of them are not found or not found alive. When they do find somebody alive, it's a really joyful moment because for the majority of the people are not found out there. Yeah. It's a big desert.
The maps are not only not the only horrifying thing with the statistics on them that they show, but some of the stories that we hear. Number of years ago, I've been with the organization about 15 or so years. Number of years ago, we're going to fill water tanks. We're going down the road, and we see a couple of guys under a tree on a hot July afternoon. You guys okay? We're fine. You sure? Need water, need food, which is why we travel in twos. One stays with people in trouble, one goes gets help. No, we're fine. 3 hours later, we had finished filling the water tanks, and they're still under the same tree on our way back. They're not as fine. They're a little bit dehydrated, and we stopped them again, and they tell us how lucky they were to get the smuggler that they got because he told them if they waited under that tree, he'd come by with an air-conditioned limousine, take them to this great job he had arranged for them 30 minutes down the road in New York City.
Ooh.
When we were able to tell them that they were being left there to die, they said, please call Border Patrol. I know I'm going to get detained, but I'll be safe. I know I'll be sent home by the U.S. government, one of them said, but I'll be alive. That was one of the good stories, believe it or not. I'm sitting in a migrant shelter in Nogales, Sonora. I'm talking to this very cute 20-something-year-old little girl from Guatemala. She paid $5,000 to get to Nogales. Now, how somebody from that kind of poverty comes up with that money, I can't even begin to guess. But she's bragging how she could have crossed the border any day, but she's waiting for another $1,500. Why, of course, is my question. Because once again, she is so lucky she's found this great smuggler that if she comes up with $1,500 more, he will sell her in writing a rape insurance policy.
Oh.
When I tried to tell her that there was no truth of any kind in that, as gently as I could, she finally looked at me and she said, I'm going to wait for the money and stay with the smuggler. I know you gringos, you don't want people like us with dark skin speaking foreign languages in your country.
Horrifying.
I mean, these are just two of the many stories above and beyond the statistics you see on our maps.
Ugh.
We need drivers. We need helpers. We need volunteers. I want to get that in before we run out of our time.
That's
also,
actually, it's something I talk about all the time on here. It's actually one of the cornerstones of what Lifestyle Tucson is all about. If you can't donate money, donate your time. Volunteer.
Google us. Just Google Humane Borders, and all the information you need is there. But please, we do need volunteers for a number of different things. The summer is prime time for us. Even if you don't speak Spanish, if you do, that's better. But if you don't, we could still use you.
That's important. It's humaneborders.org to get all that information. Go check out the tabs that I'm talking about. You'll learn a lot. And one of the things that you can learn about is some of the things they need right now. If you can't volunteer, like I say, you can also donate money or perhaps donate something to their Amazon wish list. There's a call right now for canopies needed for life-saving water stations, help asylum seekers find relief from the desert sun. That's what they're asking for right now, right on the main page of the website, in bold, in red, and you have an Amazon wish list. That's an amazing way to help an organization just by having people fill out these orders. Use Prime, let's go, cash it in, and send it on to go helping these folks out here because they're doing a lot. You're doing more. And way to carry the burden that it feels to be talking about this stuff. I can't imagine how heavy that weighs on you to a degree to hear these stories and sometimes often probably have to tell them the harsh truths of what that is, of what
very, very
is.
true. I can't tell you that all the phone calls I deal with from families looking for lost ones end up happily. Unfortunately, if we get 25 or 30% of them ending up in good news, we've had a good time. But that's still a minority, and the most of the calls end up either being forgotten or in bad news. It's very, very sad. I mean, think about that if it was one of the members of your family.
Right.
Think about where your family was before your family got to the United States. They were somewhere else. They didn't like being there. They wanted somewhere better. They came here. And that's exactly what the migrants are doing. The people crossing in the desert are not the criminals with the drugs. The druggies that want to get all the poison into our country pay people to cross them through ports of entry by hiding drugs on their person or in their vehicle.
Yeah, I actually did a previous episode of Lifestyle Tucson. Let me remember who it was with, but I learned that. And people would think that, oh, this is how it's going. No. They're all going through the ports and the harbors and the normal ways in which a lot of shipping and receiving, that's how the drugs are getting here. It's not through on someone's back at a Coke mule, all this baloney.
No, it's not that at all.
I would say growing up here my entire life, I mean, we've known this since growing up on the border. I mean, growing up between Nogales and Tucson my entire life, you know that we cannot check every single cargo container. Here in the desert, we can't check every single truck that comes through bringing the lifeblood of produce into the United States. And the cartels know this. And all they have to do is, if one gets caught out of 1,000, it's just a cost of doing business, just like it is for a car company that builds cars and they have a safety recall or they get sued because of something. They know they can ship it on these trucks, ship it in cargo containers, and they're not going to put it on the backs of 20 guys trying to trailer it across the border. Our appetite's too big for that.
Yeah. It's the truth. And I grew up in New York. And again,
that's... You and me.
Yeah, well, there you go. And that's the thing. Do you feel that's why you have a bit more of an understanding of, growing up in the melting pot? And again, I went to New York City a lot, too. I got to go to school there and seeing the Statue of Liberty. It stands for something to me. It was on the license plates growing up. It means
Statue
something.
of Liberty and Ellis Island is what our country is all about.
Right.
We are a nation of immigrants. The only real gringos are the indigenous people, the tribes that have been here for years. All of us are immigrants.
Right. And I don't know why that's such a hard reality for people to understand. And I mean, I kind of do. I do a lot of research when it comes to history. And again, we're talking the whole time. And one of the things, when we talk about women's rights and how the big revolution for that was happening in the 70s, same thing for the environment and all this stuff that was going on there. And I watch a news report and there's a woman on the sidewalk watching the people in the streets marching and getting their women's rights, that whole thing. Let's ask this lady over here. And it's a lady clutching her pearls because she has pearls and her little hat. I go, why aren't you? You're a lady, you're a woman. Why don't you believe in their rights? I like my life just the way it is. And that is some of the problem. When you have a bunch of people that are comfortable and happy, they're like, well, I don't want those disruptors to disrupt what's going on for me. They might say it's unbalanced, but things are working out just fine in my situation. And it can be hard to see that and hard to have that perspective for some. But you really do have to realize what's going on with people of other races and everything we're dealing with here towards the border and understand that, again, humans are humans.
Mexico is our next door neighbor.
Yeah.
The people in Mexico just want to be our friends. All we have to do is allow it. It's that simple.
Right.
And they're all good people. Well, I shouldn't say all good people. That's
No, but we understand,
stereotyping.
but we're
But the
talking about the
majority
good
of the people
Yeah.
there are very good people, just like the majority of us in the U.S. are.
As my family, like I said, we're from here. I mean, my great-grandmother and my grandmother came here in 1919 during the Civil War in Mexico, and they were war refugees. I mean, plain and simple. Before that, they were migrant workers coming across, picking cotton in Eloy, Marana, Guadalupe, Phoenix, It wasn't always like this. I mean, I used to speak with my grandmother about how it was, and I lived in Nogales back in the early 70s, and used to go back and forth all the time. Bring family back and forth, talk to each other, see each other, go for baptisms, weddings, Christmas, back and forth. And only in the last 50 years has this really become this kind of a wedge issue.
The scapegoating.
We need people. We need these people to do work here. We need that free transfer of people back and forth to be able to make a good living, to take home to their family and to come up here and see their families. I mean, it's a part of life. Our border wasn't always so militarized.
Yeah. Again, it's a lot of scapegoating for, South Park makes a joke. You took our jobs, right? That old joke, right? Where that old nonsense, when you watch it in old rhetoric of, another president's giving this old speech that they've been given for 40 years about blaming and saying, here's the real reason that things aren't working out, folks.
And now that we have this problem, the biggest thing for us, like we said, I mean, we could talk, for a whole series of shows about what happened in the last 50 or 60 years on the border. But the truth is, nobody should be dying out there. Again, growing up out here, we were always told, if you come somewhere and you're dying, if there's somebody's going to give you water.
Mm-hmm.
You walk into a business, you knock on somebody's door, you had a ranch. There's no reason that people should be dying of thirst and exposure in the desert. And anything we can do to help stop that is what we want to do. Now, whether they end up with Border Patrol and then go through the process of having to do the paperwork that they have to do to become citizens or to seek amnesty, or get work permits, that's a whole different thing, that, of course, our politicians can hopefully streamline. But what we want to do is just make sure they don't die out there trying to get here.
Right. And let's refocus a bit. I got to calm myself. I get very passionate and lost in my thoughts. But I really believe what we're talking about is some of the most important things we can be talking about. And do we have the answers of how to solve the whole crisis in the boardroom and in Congress? And it's like, no, we don't. But what we do have is a solution on how to save lives, just actual human beings and lives. And that's what's important. And don't forget, because when we're talking about Lifestyle Tucson, we're talking about saving kids' lives. Some of these are children. And in fact, a lot of them are. And that's a very sad thing. Why do you think people are fleeing? They're trying to save their families. Most people are not selfish. Most people are trying to save others, not themselves. People will do that. And that is obviously the crisis that's going on there. It's a lot of scary stuff and violence going on. And that's the people trying to escape that. That's what they're trying to escape. Get me back on track. And let's talk a little bit more about the website, too, because there's more to learn there. There's policies and initiatives. Again, don't listen to me. What do I know? I'm just here getting upset. All right. There's articles and YouTube videos. Go
There's
educate
articles,
yourself.
there's videos. The best thing to do if you can't or don't want to go out on a run with us is to go to the website. You'll see it all.
Yeah.
You'll see how we do it. You'll see where we do it. You'll see, as you said, different types of information that are available. I just finished editing about 15 years of videos that were taken during special events that we were very much a part of that are going to be little by little added to our website. We were invited down to Los Pinos, which is the White House in Mexico, a number of years ago, by President Felipe Calderón when he was first in office. They have a Human Rights Commission that gives groups awards for achievements every year. We were the first group outside of Mexico to ever get that award. We were sent down to the White House, Los Pinos, to sit with the president and the human rights people and be honored. We have all kinds of things like that on tape. They'll be on the website, so you get to know even more about us. I shouldn't say tape. I should say digitally. We're in the 21st century. I got to get off my analog kick.
That's so fun. But that's the truth, and that's important. Congratulations for that. And look at what that says, not only about your organization, but what it says about Tucson. And that's what I love about Tucson. There's something very special about this area and the people in it, and I hear it from all the organizations and 501c3s that don't compete, that work together and work with each other. So even again, I want everyone that can hear any of this, get involved, get connected, and or connect this organization with other great organizations that might be able to help them. Because there's a lot of great people in town doing a lot, and a lot of great people trying to do a lot for a lot of people in town. So let me ask you, what are your goals going forward? And let me ask you just quick about growth, because how many drums did you have, let's say, a couple years ago, and how much has the growth been with the amount that you install these water stations, and how much are you looking forward to in 2025 as far as like growth like that? Does that question make any sense?
Well, I think at the height we had about 50 stations a number of years ago. We're now down to closer to 45.
Okay.
What's our wish, in other words, that you were asking?
Yeah, I often ask like what a wish is for your organization.
Oh, we'd like to be put out of business. We'd
That-
like to
and that's
be no
the-
more
that's the
need.
answer, right?
We'd like to be no more need for the services we provide, but I'm
Yep.
sorry to say that I think the need will continue long after I'm gone.
I
Yeah.
believe I heard a story when they first started this back in 2000, so 24 years ago.
Yeah.
They thought that after about a year of doing this and the publicity of what was going on, that it would end, that would be it. We'd, to have those out there, that people would learn about what was happening, and then we would take actions as a nation or as a state, to ensure the safety of these people, and that we wouldn't be needed anymore. But here, 24 years later, we still are. Last year, we were called by Oregon Pipe National Monument because of the amount of people seeking amnesty, and these are people that want to turn themselves in.
Wow.
They want to come and see the Border Patrol, and so they can start their process of amnesty because they fear for their lives in their home countries. There were so many coming that they actually called us because they have a relationship with us, and because we do these things, by getting permits and stuff. They called and said, "Hey, we're going to set you up. We need, if you can do it, we need 6 stations along the border here to shade people, to give people water, snacks while they have to wait."
Wow.
For the Border Patrol.
We work with the Border Patrol, which
Right.
is a shock to a lot of people. But look, we can agree to disagree on a number of things, but we save a small amount of lives if all we do is harass the Border Patrol. Working together, we save more lives, and that's the bottom line at the end of the day.
That is true. And again, that's how adults work. At least that's how adults used to work together. You just work together. We got to know that, we don't all agree on the same thing, but we got to, work toward a meeting in the middle on certain things, and especially, again, if we're just saving any lives. Any lives saved is a huge success for both organizations, the Border Patrol included.
Amen.
Yeah. Let's leave it at amen. I think that's always a good spot, right? So where can people discover more about Humane Borders online? Go to humaneborders.org. Do you have, and you have Facebook as well exists? Do you have Facebook,
David,
Instagram?
I leave that to you.
We
You
do.
and
I think we have
Laurie are the
Instagram.
social-
Yeah, we have started an Instagram site in the last 6 to 9 months.
Okay.
And please, check in there. We drop a lot of videos and pictures and what we're doing on there. And there's a small Facebook presence as well.
Go for it. Don't listen to me. I'm just a friendly guy in Tucson doing my best to make friends in Tucson, and that's what I do on Lifestyle Tucson, because today we made friends with Bob Feinman, Vice Chair of Humane Borders, and David Sarando, Treasurer of Humane Borders, whose primary mission is to save desperate people from a horrible death, dehydration, and exposure, and to create a just and humane environment in the borderlands. Thank you for joining me today, fellas.
Thank you for
Thank
the
you.
time.
This was Lifestyle Tucson. Bing bong bing, time for a recap. What a great conversation. Sorry I get so emotional talking about saving human lives. Doesn't matter what color they are, what race they are, creed, or any of that sort of stuff, does it? It's about saving people from dying. We don't want people dying as they're crossing the border. Remember, they're trying to escape something brutal. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. No one's trying to escape paradise, right? So, remember, go check out humaneborders.org to get all the details on this great organization, because I am just a fun, friendly children's entertainer, director of public affairs, sure. But what do I know? You got to get informed. Go look at their YouTube videos. You heard about their award-winning videos that they're putting together. Go get all the details. They have YouTube. It's all on their website. Go like them on Facebook. Go follow them on Instagram at Humane Borders. And if you can, volunteer. And if you can afford it, go buy them something off their Amazon wish list. Go check the whole thing out right now. Again, they're looking for canopies. Canopies needed for life-saving water stations. That's very, very important. Keep people out of the scorching sun. It's getting hot. Help these folks out by contributing. Go check out their Amazon wish list over on their website. And again, I don't know, should I get more personal? This is pretty personal feelings stuff, even though this has nothing to do with me. Like I say, I'm just some white dude from New York, and I understand that my grandparents and great-grandparents came from Italy and came from Ireland, and then they met in the tri-state area, the melting pot of New York City and Brooklyn and that whole region. And that's the thing, is that if it wasn't for immigration, this country would not exist. So I don't have the answers. but I know that we can save people's lives. I know that maybe a life that we save might have the answers. Maybe that's something we haven't thought of. Let's not let people die that might have the number one perspective on how to solve this problem and what people actually really want. And it's just a nice, safe place to raise their families and work and live. And I'll tell you, that's what Tucson really is. So, sorry America's so attractive. Let's keep doing our best to make sure that it works and we can sustain what we've built here and keep building and keep growing. I'm going to stop because I'm annoying even myself right now. Don't give me a soapbox, right? It's called Lifestyle Tucson, not the Soapbox Show with Frank rambling on and on with his bleeding heart. Jeez. So again, apologies to some, and at the same time, no apologies, because I'm just trying to help people. So I want to thank our new friends at Humane Borders for joining me today. You've been listening to Lifestyle Tucson. If you're a nonprofit that would like to be on the show, email lifestyletucson@gmail.com. For more information about this program or to listen to something you may have missed, go to the Sunday Mornings page on klpx.com, kfma.com, mixfm.com, or espntucson.com. You can also subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, and Audible, or wherever fine podcasts are humane. Follow on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Lifestyle Tucson, because I'm your BFF, your best Frank forever, Frank Powers, Toot Toot Tucson. I love you the most.